What if the key to unlocking your feminine energy wasn't in doing more, but in syncing with the natural rhythms all around you? In today's video, we're diving into seasonal living and how the new moon in Leo on July 24th is the perfect opportunity to reset, realign, and reconnect with your authentic self. Welcome to Mindful Success Path. On this channel, we talk all about feminine energy, seasonal living, masculine and feminine dynamics, and a lot more witchy things. So if that's something that you are interested in, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we have coming out on this channel. And if you are interested in increasing and enhancing your own feminine energy so you can more easily manifest things into your life, then make sure to download our free guide on the multiple ways that you can increase your feminine energy starting today. You can find that in the description below. Hi guys, I missed you. Quick little life update before we get into the new moon in Leo and what we're doing here. Many of you found me. This community grew very quickly because I did a reaction video to the Aubrey Marcus fiasco, and then I kind of disappeared. And the reason why I kind of disappeared is because my husband and I actually ended up moving out of the city and more into the country. We are now living in the Lake Chapala area in Mexico, which, if you don't know about Lake Chapala, it's the largest lake in Mexico, and it feels so good and so scrumptious out here. There's beautiful towns filled with tradition and culture. We're actually just down the street from a bunch of berry farms and things like that. So we were moving and getting accommodated to our new life. One of the things that we really desired and we were able to manifest this year is we wanted to get out of the city and closer to nature, and we did it. So that's where I have been. And in the themes of being closer to nature, one of the things that I really believe is that one of the most powerful things that you can do to increase your feminine energy is to actually get in tune with seasonal living or cyclical living. And basically, what that means is that you live seasonally or cyclically. Now, it could literally mean seasonally according to what we're going through in the year. So, for example, we are at the height of summer right now. So, what does that mean? It means the sun is out for longer. Maybe you're feeling more energetic. Right now, literally, because I said we're by berry farms, and one of our neighbors actually owns a berry ranch, which I'm very excited to go check out. The berries are being harvested. We've got fresh berries coming from the farms all the time right now. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it, if you're a woman, is through your own moon cycle, your own hormonal cycle, and that process that you go through every 4 weeks. I can do other videos on that because it is totally life-changing when you start cycle syncing and basically start biohacking according to what's going on in your body. And the other thing that you can do, which is what we're going to start doing in this series of videos, is you can go according to the moon phases. Now, there's a lot to talk about in terms of moon phases, everywhere from the new moon, which we'll be focusing on today, to the full moon and the phases in between and how you can use them to bring things into manifestation and get closer to nature. But today what we're going to be focusing on specifically is the upcoming new moon in Leo, and then how to align that energy so you can express yourself more authentically and also plant some seeds for your future manifestations. So let's get into it, right? What are new moons actually for? So new moons, in ancient times, basically, people didn't go out, right? Because there was no actual light from the full moon. So this was a time for a lot of introspection. This was a time that a lot of people spent with their families. If we look at farming, and my grandfather actually was in farming before he immigrated to the United States, my mother remembers hearing from my grandfather, hey, we're going to go plant seeds, like literal physical seeds, during the new moon, and that was the best time to do it, was during that moon phase. When my husband and I were studying to be holistic health practitioners here in Mexico, we got to, this was a couple years ago, we got to the part where it was about creating tinctures and herbs and all that kind of stuff. And what did they say? Hey, the best time to plant the seeds is during the new moon, right? So physically, right, it was literally a time for planting seeds, and it was literally a time for introspection. Now, metaphorically, you could do the exact same thing, right? So it's a time for introspection, usually the new moon. It's also a time for figuring out what it is that you want to create within the next couple of weeks of that moon cycle. Now, if we want to take this to another level, then we can bring astrology into it. I'm a huge fan of astrology. It's really helped me uh, understand what phases I'm in and what cycles I'm going through. It also helps you, and also for my loved ones, when I look at what's going on for them, it also helps me to I feel like holistically hit every area of my life, because in my 20s, when I was like very much in my masculine energy and I was like go 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 all the time, and I still have a little bit of that, I was really only focused on one thing, and that one thing was money, and that one thing was success. But I would basically neglect every other area of my life. So one of the things that I like about astrology specifically, and when you start following all these planetary cycles, is if you understand what's going on with planetary cycles, it's almost like you're able to address every area of your life, to put it that way, which is one of the reasons why I want to do that. So let's talk about new moon in Leo and what it means, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk about general overall gist of things, and then I'm actually going to use my astrology personally on what I've got going on in my life to kind of ground this. Because one of the things that I love to do is like not just give you the esoteric concepts, but also ground it into very practical ways so that you learn how to use it for yourself. So what is special about this particular new moon? Well, it's in the sign of Leo. What does Leo represent? Leo represents creativity. It represents pleasure and joy and fun. It represents children. Because what do children do? They're full of joy and fun, right? And creativity. So that makes sense. It also represents authentic expression. Leo is all about that authenticity. It's also very regal. So like royalty and all that kind of stuff is associated with Leo, and it's a very heart-centered energy. Now, why would it be a heart-centered energy? Because where do our desires come from? Usually our heart, right? Where does our authentic expression come from? Usually our heart. So Leo basically starts asking certain questions, right? And those certain questions are, how can I express myself authentically? What is my authentic expression? What are my desires? It also asks things like, what lights you up in life? So, for example, talking about these kinds of things lights me up. I'm very witchy. If I'm not, working with my husband in the relocation business that he has, then I'm probably got my head in a book, or I'm lighting a candle, or I'm doing something witchy. It lights me up. I love it. And now I'm expressing it by sharing it publicly, which I never really used to do. It also asks, where have you been dimming your light? Where have you been dimming your shine? Where have you been playing small, right? Because Leo doesn't play small. Leo is very out there and expressive and loud. And it also asks you, how can you show up to be more unapologetically you? Because let's be real, most people go around the world and they're wearing masks and they're behaving in ways that they think they're supposed to be behaving, and most people are walking around the world squashing their desires and not being authentically themselves. I used to see this come up a lot when I did a lot of business coaching back in the day. And what I would see is how people would get very, normally, if you want to make marketing work, for example, is you have to be authentically yourself, right? Now, there is this part of it that's very, technical and analytical and understanding how algorithms and all that stuff work. But you could understand algorithms, but if you're not being authentic in how you are expressing yourself, it's not going to work. And normally, the way that I would see this manifest for people is they would be way too in their heads, they would be way too scripted, they would be pretending to be people that they're not, because they were always afraid of being authentically themselves out of the fear of rejection, right? Now, the ironic part is that the more authentic you are you going to be rejected? Yeah, but you're also going to attract your tribe, and you're going to feel better in your own skin. So let's get back to this new moon in Leo, right? There's also a twist to this new moon in Leo, and I'm going to keep things very general to keep it very simple. But basically, this new moon in Leo is opposite Pluto in Aquarius. Now, Pluto equals power, and Aquarius equals the collective. And when there's an opposition, normally it might means that there might be some tension, right? So how can we see this kind of on a global scale and maybe even in your own life? It means that you might be feeling a tension between expressing yourself and what you authentically want to do and want to express, but there's a tension between that and perhaps external pressure from society or external pressure from powers that be, to put it that way. Now, what this is about reclaiming your power without need for permission, is basically what this comes down to. Now, let me use myself as a personal example. If you want to understand kind of what your own personal example what might be and how it's showing up in which area of your life, then you would need to pull up your astrological birth chart, but I'm going to use mine, right? So let me give you a real life example using my own astrology. So I'm a Libra rising. So what does that mean? It means that this new moon is going to land in my 11th house. What is the 11th house? It rules networks, long-term vision, community, long-term goals, dreams, desires, that kind of stuff. And it's opposing Pluto in my 5th house, which is all about creativity, entrepreneurship, pleasure, and joy. Now, I could interpret this in a couple of ways, right? So, one is that there could be tension between my creative pursuits, like this channel is more of a creative pursuit for me, and my long term business goals, right? Like, this is more of a creative, fun project for me. If it turns into a business and it kind of already has, it's already made money, then that's cool, right? But there might be a tension between this creative project that I have and then, the main business, which is the business that my husband and I run together, right? So maybe there's a bit of tension there, like, oh, I'm feeling pulled in different directions. The second thing that this might show up is a desire, and this is what I've been feeling for a while, to be more creatively expressed, but I might have limited time and responsibilities. Now, the way that I get around this is with cycle syncing according to my hormonal cycle, but that's a video for another time. But let me give an example, right? My husband and I run a relocation business helping successful entrepreneurs and investors move and invest in other countries, right? That's why we're spending a lot of time in Mexico, for those of you who are asking. I want to get more creative with that business, with the content and the filming and the social media, but time constraints have been a challenge in terms of me actually really learning how to do that. So, what's the solution? Maybe it's restructuring the business. So, for example, we just hired a salesperson to help with that business, and my husband is really training that person because he's very good at the structure and training of things. And then now that we have that support, well, that means now I can step up more in terms of my creative pursuits. It means I'm going to have more time for things like this. It means I'm going to have more time to be more creative in the main business, because that's my zone of genius, is the creativity and the expression and the teaching, right? So I could read it in a couple of different ways, and this is why I love astrology, right? Because if you understand what kind of a cycle you are in, you can also find the solutions, right? So like, oh, this is a challenge because there's an opposition. Okay, what is the solution to that challenge, right? So now let's layer in a few more things that might be going on, right? So Mercury is also going to be retrograde in Leo soon. So in my case, right, that looks like, in your case, it looks like you might be rethinking how to express yourself. You might be reviewing creative projects, or you might be reconsidering what it means to show up authentically, right? In my case, again, in my 11th house, it means I might be rethinking how some of these creative pursuits relate to my long-term vision and goals, right? The other thing is that Saturn's going to be retrograding in Aries. Now, the good news is that it's going to be trine to this new moon, right? So what does a trine mean? It usually means there's like a harmonious flowing energy, right? I actually love Saturn energy. I love Saturnian energy. I think it's because my Saturn is in Capricorn, so I can do well with this energy. My Mars is in Capricorn as well, right? So I don't mind Saturnian energy. I don't mind discipline. I love it. I don't mind structure. I love it. I don't mind routines. I love them. And I also don't mind a challenge. Right? um, so I actually don't have an issue with it at all, like some other people do. It's basic, but in this case, right, because it is a trine, it's not necessarily about some challenge, right? It's more about adding in structure and discipline. So what it's doing is that it's actually bringing in a really nice creative blend of creativity and then putting some discipline around it. So for example, I'm starting to do these kind of like moon cycle videos, which I've been wanting to do for several months. I just didn't have the time. Again, that time constraint thing is coming up, like I was mentioning. Now I have a little bit more time because we're settled in the new place. We have help in the main business, so on and so forth, right? So because I'm doing these moon cycle videos, then what does that do? I'm able to express myself, but it also adds a certain level of discipline because I know twice a month I got to do one of these videos. See? You see how that flows and how it's coming together? That's why I love it. Now, the other thing, right, is for me personally, in this case, Saturn is going to be in my seventh house, right? So, what is seventh house? It's relationships, it's partnerships, it's also the marketplace, how you are relating to clients, for example, and things like that. Now, in this case, it's marriage partnerships and also business partnerships. And in my life, my husband is also my business partner, right? So, both are combined together. So, what this might look like is that it shows up as building more structures and systems together, right? Maybe there's more routines around the house to make everything flow now that we're in a new house. Maybe there's more routine and structure and efficiency in the business itself. He's actually looking up how to have databases for all our information as we speak, right? As we're doing this. And sometimes when you have something going on in your seventh house, it's not even necessarily you. Sometimes it's your partner. So what it also looks like is, we're building networks and partnerships for the main business, right? So, what did my husband do? He hired a salesperson. He's training the salesperson. We partnered with a well known real estate agent in this particular area of Lake Chapala. So, again, it's that partnerships and it's flowing nicely with my long term vision and my long term goals and really bringing structure to those different things in my life. Okay. Now, what does this mean for you specifically? Again, you're going to have to pull up your chart in order to know for sure. There's lots of free resources on how to do that. But generally speaking, what this could mean for you, right? Even if you don't know what's going on with your chart, even if you don't know how to read a chart, even if you can't tell like an opposition from a trine or what house is what in astrology and you're newer to that, you can still work with this energy. And here's how. You can set intentions around authentic expression. What does that look like? How do you want to express yourself more authentically moving forward? For those of you who are in business, this is pretty easy, right? For example, maybe it means you need to more authentically express yourself in your marketing and the content that you're putting out there. And I promise you, if you do that, you're going to attract a lot more clients. Maybe it means that in this new moon, you create space for quiet reflection, a ritual around this new moon. Remember, it's for planting seeds, right? It's for introspection. It's for looking within to see what is going on. Speaking of which, you can literally plant your seeds metaphorically or literally. What are you calling in? What is it that you want to manifest in the next 2 week cycle? And you can ask yourself, where in my life do I want to be more lit up? Where in my life do I want to experience more joy and pleasure and creativity? Where can I be more unapologetically me? Because that's Leo. Every Leo I know is super unapologetic. Leo and Leo rising, right? Every single one super unapologetic about who they are. They're very social. They're like life of the party, right? Right? So how can you be more like that? Because Leo doesn't ask for permission to shine. Leo just shines. They don't need anybody's permission. And the thing is, you shouldn't be asking anybody for permission either. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're craving a life that's more aligned, more feminine, and more cyclical, this is your invitation. This is one of the ways in which you can start doing it. And if you want deeper support around integrating seasonal and intuitive living into your everyday life, you can check out the links below. There's a lot of free resources back there, like Enhance Your Feminine Energy Guide. You can join my programs. You can book a session. You could do whatever you want. It's all down there. And you can comment below, what seeds are you going to be planting with this Leo new moon? Don't forget to subscribe and like this video and share it out. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.